Today, we're going to be looking at Dave and Mary's retirement plan. And Dave and Mary are 63 and 60 years old, and they have saved $1.8 million for retirement, and they also have 2 pensions. So they are set up for an extremely successful retirement. But with all that success also comes big questions when it comes to taxes, not only now, but really in the future when they have required minimum distributions. So we're going to walk through their plan today to show you some things that they could be doing today to be proactive with their tax plan in hopes to lower their tax liability over the course of their lifetime, but also reduce taxes for their kids in the future when they inherit this money. And if you're new here, my name is Ryan. I'm the founder of Denali Financial Group, and we help people just like Dave and Mary navigate retirement. And we do this through a planning process called the Mint for More Retirement Method. And what this method is it really looks at all 5 areas of a financial plan. So we look at things like income planning, so pensions, Social Security that we'll talk about today, but we also look at their investment strategy, their tax strategy, healthcare strategy, and then legacy and estate, right? And what we found is by bringing all 5 of these together into one cohesive plan, it leads to a far less stressful retirement and really allows you to do more of all the things you want to be doing in retirement. All right, so let's jump into Dave and Mary's plan. And the first thing we're going to look at is what does their income look like in retirement. I already mentioned they are very rare in the fact that they have 2 really solid pensions coming in for both of them. And so Mary's will be $38,400 per year, and Dave's will be $22,800. He also gets a supplement for Social Security up until he turns Social Security age, so he's getting an additional $18,000 there. Now, for Social Security, Dave's going to be bringing in $25,000 when he's eligible at 62, and Mary at age 67 will be bringing in $30,000. So overall, as you'll see, their income plan is very well intact. It is a very solid income plan thanks to the pensions and future Social Security. Their expenses are $100,000 per year, plus they wanted to add a travel budget of $10,000 per year, and they feel like this is extremely doable because they've actually been spending less than that, so they're upping expenses a little bit as they head into retirement, and they obviously want to do a little more travel, so that $10,000 is budgeted in. If we look at their net worth, obviously the thing that stands out, the thing that we are worried about in the future from a tax standpoint is the fact that they have over $1 million in tax-deferred retirement accounts, or I call them tax-later accounts. They're accounts you haven't paid taxes on yet, but when you take money out, you have to pay the taxes. And so when it comes to people like Dave and Mary that have pensions and Social Security where they may not need to access any of this money, that money continues to grow and grow and grow. And then at age 73, required minimum distributions come into play, and it can create a major tax problem. And so let's really look at the breakdown of what their RMDs would look like. So let's jump in and look at what we project taxes to look like for Dave and Mary throughout retirement. And if you come to this tax page here, what you'll see is that their tax liability continues to just rise and rise and rise for the rest of their life. And that is because of what we talked about, the required minimum distributions. Because of their pensions, because of their Social Security, they're not taking as much money out of their retirement accounts, allowing them to build and build and build. But then eventually the IRS comes knocking and tells them you have got to start taking money out and paying the taxes on this. And so let's look at this. Their required minimum distribution kicks in first for Mary, and that's only $33,000. And of that $33,000, they need about $12,000 of it just to cover their lifestyle, right? Due to inflation, spending, all that. So that's not the worst thing, right? $33,000, it's extra income, but it's not the end of the world. And even $35,000, $37,000, that's not too big of a deal. But the issue becomes when they both have to start taking required minimum distributions, and that's where you see that $98,000 number that 103 number, 109, 115, and it just continues to rise and rise and rise. But what really concerns us about that is that they're only spending $30,000 of that. So that extra $68,000 they're taking out is money they simply do not need. So something we want to look at is where are they at tax bracket wise, and how much room do we have in that tax bracket before they completely fill that up. So for Dave and Mary, you'll see they're in the 12% bracket, and they've got about $43,000 worth of room before they jump in to the next bracket. So that's how we're going to start to gauge on some tax planning opportunities. And basically what we're looking at is, can we be doing Roth conversions? Can we start to convert money from those tax deferred accounts over to a Roth IRA where it can grow tax-free? Right? And so as we see $43,000, well, we're going to kick on some Roth conversions and start to try to fill this tax bracket. So let's take a look at how that looks. So here we are, we're doing that orange you see there is maximizing that 12% and filling up that tax bracket. And you'll see it more in detail here. The taxable portion of that Roth conversion is $43,000. So if we come back to the cash flow report that we were looking at, you'll see the required minimum distribution actually drops down quite a bit, right? It was over 90,000 and 100,000, and now it's only 68, 73, 77, 81, and so on. And so this is a technique, a strategy that absolutely could be effective for Dave and Mary. It will reduce their overall tax liability. Dave and Mary were curious, what if we got more aggressive with Roth conversions? Could we start to eliminate ever having those forced required minimum distributions? So let's take a look at, if instead of just filling up the 12% bracket, what if they went a bracket ahead and they went all the way up to the 22 and got much more aggressive with their Roth conversions? Let's look at the impact that would have. So as you'll see, instead of just those little tiny Roth conversions where we fill all the way up to this line, we're now jumping into that next bracket and we're doing much more aggressive conversions. And so now what you'll see is, instead of saving $235,000 in taxes over the course of their lifetime, they've now got that number up to over $500,000. And so this is definitely, keep in mind, they're going to have to pay much more in taxes ahead of time, this red line, but look at how much they're reducing taxes later in life. And the reason this can be a really attractive strategy for people like Dave and Mary is because of the fear that tax rates could be higher in the future. So even if they're paying the 22% today, they like that, knowing that they know that is what the 22% bracket is. We just simply don't know what that'll be in 20, 25 years, and they don't want to leave that up to chance. They want to take a little more control of their situation. And so what this shows you is that there's options, right? You can do more aggressive conversions, you can do smaller conversions, and this can change year by year, right? There may be years where they need to take more money out of their retirement accounts, which will mean they aren't doing as aggressive of conversions. But at the end of the day, the key is making sure you're running these numbers and knowing exactly what your situation looks like. And then the last thing we'll look at is the impact it has on their legacy for their kids, right? Their estate. And so by doing the aggressive Roth conversion strategy, their kids go from paying $1.6 million in taxes on that, compared to, by doing the conversions, that number is reduced by $857,000. And now they're still paying over $700,000 in taxes on this money they inherit, but they've got that chunk of tax-free money sitting in a Roth IRA that they will also be inheriting, right? So this is just the power of tax planning. It can help Dave and Mary win, but it can also go on to the next generation and just make sure more money stays within your family rather than more going to the IRS than needs to be. So I hope today showed you that even if you have a pension and you're well set for retirement, it doesn't mean you don't need to be planning, right? Tax planning can be one of the most powerful and effective tools you utilize throughout retirement. And so I hope walking through these strategies was helpful for you. If you'd like to learn more about how this type of planning could help you, go check out our website, denalifinancial.com. We even have a quiz that you can take to get an idea of where maybe your plan could need some more efficiency, or some areas that you might want to start looking at to improve your overall plan. So thank you for watching. We will be back again with more videos. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you again soon.